Hello, Aaron. How's it going?
Keeping it real, Mr. Soup. How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm not too bad, not too bad. It's been ages though since we've recorded one of these Archaeo-Chats. I mean, what have you been up to?
Me, I've just been getting ready to move, and about a week ago, I got an email from the I get emails from the Chartered Institute for Archaeologists.
Uh-huh.
I'm a member there, and I saw that historic heritage bill for Wales that came across in an email, and I was like, that reminded me of Office Dyke, that video that you had done about the guy bulldozing through that site and going, I didn't know.
I had no idea that there was a there was a dike over there.
What? There's something historic here? I thought it was a speed bump. Yeah. Place.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I saw that and I was like, oh, I wonder. And if you read farther down the email, they make mention of Office Dyke. So, you know, it was just really intriguing. So that's why I forwarded it to you. Figured you'd be real fascinated with it. And then, of course, the tragedy that's going on in Nepal with the earthquakes and all the loss of life out there. And it's just not the loss of life, but also Nepal, their country is based on, a lot of it is on tourism. And that's their livelihood as well and their income and keep them going. And so they've not only lost all this life, but all their culture and history has been completely devastated by these, now 2 earthquakes that have hit up there between Kathmandu and Mount Everest. So that's kind of the things I've sent to you, thought it'd be good to talk about.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I totally agree. And so let's start with the less serious one. I suppose it depends on who you're talking to, but you know the one which isn't an earthquake, and
Right.
and that is this proposed legislation in Wales, and it's very interesting actually. Apparently, it's based on a series of propositions which have been going on in Wales since at least 2011. The Welsh government has stated that it wanted a new policy linked with public engagement to help protect and also better service the physical history and heritage of Wales, and therefore also actually have an effect on tourism. Wales is also a huge tourist area. I mean, lots of English people wouldn't necessarily fully off the cuff agree with that, but actually loads of people flock to Wales every year to see the castles, to see the mountains, to go to places like Bethgelert and Betws y Coed and this kind of thing.
Well, I went to Cardiff last May, a year ago. I went to Cardiff and checked that place out, so that was kind of nice.
No, see here, this is where I show my card. I wouldn't really class Cardiff as a tourist destination, I have to say.
They had Doctor Who.
No, well, that's true. Yeah, okay, sorry. But it's interesting how the reason why I thought this was really cool actually is that it's one of the good side effects of the Welsh National Assembly. Lots of people sort of talk about how devolution in Britain, devolving power from Westminster and London to the provinces, to Wales and Scotland and Northern Ireland, has both positives and negatives. And I think in this instance, the Welsh Assembly is really taking hold of this issue by the scruff of the neck. The 3 main aims of the proposed legislation. One is that is to have more effective protection for listed buildings and scheduled ancient monuments. Another is improved mechanisms for the sustainable management of the historic environment. And thirdly, greater transparency and accountability in decisions taken to the historic environment. And I think that is excellent. Dare I say, Wales could become a trailblazer especially in Britain at least. Obviously, there are other parts of the world that already have such things in place. But at a time when, for example, in the past couple of years in Britain, we've had incredible renegotiations and reshaping of, say, the planning structure. It's really nice to see a government putting heritage as one of the priorities, I think.
Yeah, and I would agree. And especially the part all the parts in that bill were excellent. I was thrilled to see it and read it as well. It was just kind of a nice change. Most of the time, we see governments and most other countries and stuff just kind of push their culture and heritage kind of to the side. They really don't put it as a top priority. Top priority is capital gain and all that other stuff like that, or their power base elsewhere in the world, but they don't really pay attention to that cultural heritage. So it was kind of nice to see that here. But what I also like to see was the ability to make, if the heritage is on a private land, to either educate the owner of that land and make sure they understand what they have on their land to prevent it from getting destroyed. And also kind of that cop out of playing ignorant, saying, well, I didn't know. And now if this bill goes through the way they wanted to, that's not an excuse anymore.
No, which would be excellent. Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't be able to have this guy bulldozing a section of an internationally significant monument and just going, I had no idea. No one. Yeah, well, never mind. Have you seen my swimming pool? It's it's going to be wonderful, and obviously, you know, there's bound to be bumps and niggles, and there's always problems with legislation. You know, there's bound to be loopholes that appear, but following a very interesting general election in this country, where actually heritage and history wasn't prioritised, as in any of the manifestos. I never really read anything solid about this stuff. It's nice to see actually the National Assembly making it a priority. It's really good, and hopefully, as you say, no more offers like mishaps.
Well, you know, there's bound to be mishaps. I think one of the email I think that I read said there was. They mentioned 119 cases of damage to scheduled monuments recorded between 2006 and 2012, with only one successful prosecution.
Yeah.
So even if, I mean, there's going to be, you know, things are going to happen even after this bill's passed, but at least there will be things in place to either prevent it, or at least if it does happen, they can't no longer just say it's about, you know, not my fault. They'll get hit for it pretty good.
Yeah, excellent, and because I mean, because that's a shocking prosecution rate, less than 1%.
Yeah,
you know, stunning, absolutely stunning. So that's a good development, which I think it's definitely worthwhile having a bit of a chat about it, but also actually bringing it to the attention of anyone else out there who wants to know more, because I think the more people are talking about this and actually bringing it to the attention of their local politicians, wherever it is that they live, and using this kind of these steps as a template, maybe the more these issues will, as you say, ignorance won't be a viable defence in the future, which is great. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it does. And there's certain websites that have come up that, you know, that talk about this bill, and it's an interesting question. One of them brought up saying, you know, is this bill really going to be the answer to the problems with Wales, at least as far as their heritage is concerned? You know, is this going to be a fixer of it, or do they just simply need more skilled people in the field and more money to repair these sites that are starting to fall apart and that are not protected? So there's those kind of questions. You know, is this bill going to really make a difference, or do we just need to increase the budget for the heritage in Wales with people skilled in archaeology and historic preservation, or is that the answer? So I guess that's an interesting debate too that I'm sure will be brought up.
Well, actually, that is a good point, because my instinct is almost always to say, improve the funding, let people have the tools to do what they need. But actually, it's one of those double-edged problems whereby I imagine that chucking money at a problem like general ignorance about the importance of a monument, for example, isn't really going to solve the issue. I think maybe the tool that's needed before money gets thrown at it is the legislation which can direct that money and actually makes, as you say, things like ignorance or the imperative to prosecute, actually the tendency, the requirement to look to prosecute as being the focus. That then you can fund it, then you can put money in, and then you actually end up with something that's got teeth. And I think actually that's basically what it boils down to. Is for a long time I've been so frustrated that an awful lot of the planning procedures in for example in Britain, an awful lot of the punishments, I suppose, when people don't do what they say they're going to do, even to a UNESCO monument, a lot of these things are just toothless. It feels as though people can get away scot-free, and if people are being prosecuted 1 in 119 cases in Wales alone, then it's going to be so refreshing to actually have, hopefully, something which can, you know, clamp down, even if it's a fine. I mean, something which people can actually feel as though, oh, actually, I can't just vandalize that stone circle, you know.
Right, and also maybe eventually, if it's successful enough, it could be a model for other other countries, other counties over here and stuff like that, just to be used. Because even in the United States, I would like to see a little bit more, I guess, less bark, more bite. That's the best way to put it on some of those heritage sites.
Yeah.
So maybe that could be a model for people to look toward in the future.
Yeah, hopefully. Just another way that Wales is improving the world. We've given the world rugby, oggies, and singing, and now, no, that, as I say, so that's a nice thing to be able to talk about. But I suppose on the other side, as you mentioned at the beginning of the video, there's this issue at the moment of the aftermath of the earthquakes in Nepal. And the fact that the obviously the initial imperative is the human tragedy. I mean, we've I think just after it happened, actually, we had a bit of a chat on Facebook, and you were saying, should we talk about this? And I think we were both right to delay, because obviously, it has to be all about the people. But now we're getting to a stage now where it seems that, for example, UNESCO is starting to actually try and quantify the damage which has been done. And I don't know. I mean, is there anything in particular that's come to your attention then, or that strikes you as important in this?
Well, of course, with the sites out there in Kathmandu, between Kathmandu and Mount Everest, almost all their they haven't really said much on the website about the natural sites, but their cultural sites, the buildings and stuff, have sustained severe damage. And I mean, if you see some of the pictures they put on there of before and afters, it's just completely heartbreaking. UNESCO, along with, of course, doing the human side of it, where they're going out there for the human aid to help the people out there who are suffering, but they've also are gathering the like a special task force to work along with volunteers and the government to protect these sites. Because once once all the shock, I guess, ended about what happened there, I started thinking, besides the loss of life, I'm like, oh my, there's hardly any food, there's hardly any water. I could see people just rummaging through the rubble of these old sites, trying to find anything they can just to start trying to sell on the market to get any kind of money, even not money, just to trade for food, water, medical supplies, whatever. And so UNESCO makes this task force that's going out there with specialists from different fields to kind of, with the volunteers, to protect these sites, and then evaluate what can be done to try to salvage what's left of a lot of these sites, these squares and temples that are out there that were just beautiful at one point, that are now just a pile of stone. Yeah,
and I mean, according to the press release from UNESCO, it says the cultural heritage of Kathmandu Valley is composed of 7 groups of monuments and buildings, representing a broad range of historical and artistic achievements, for which the Kathmandu Valley is world famous, quite rightly. The 7 monuments and sites include the Durbar Squares of Hanuman Dokar. I have to apologise if I am butchering these names, but there's Dokar, Patan, and Bak Tapur, the Buddhist stupas of Swayambhu, and Baudhanath, and the Hindu temples of Pashupati and Changu Narayan. And these are sites which I'm not going to pretend that I knew these sites intimately. I didn't, but it's a shame that it seems that an awful lot of significant damage has been done to some very iconic sites. Now, I suppose this, aside from stating the obvious when it comes to this, that is to say, oh no, sites have been destroyed. What do you think archaeologists and historians, or people who have an interest in this physical cultural heritage, what is the next step? Do you think it's about consolidation? Do you think even in some cases rebuilding? And if you do rebuild elements of a site, does it become a less valid historical site? Might we see a rebuilt element which is no longer, for example, on the UNESCO World Heritage List?
I don't think that would be the case. I mean, the site is still a place of historical importance. It'd be just like here in the States, a battle site's just a field. I mean, there's nothing, craters or anything there anymore, but the fact that something was there and something did happen still shows a lot of importance to people, and people will still come and tour it, regardless of whether the building is there or not. I do think that they need to like I said, assess the damage and try to salvage everything they can. And if I guess if the foundation's good enough to rebuild, then yeah, definitely. Because again, Nepal, their country is very small and they rely heavily on their tourism. But there's nothing there left. I mean, what is that going to do to the country and the people there? I think the question right now is just to, or the situation now, personally, I would think, is to assess the damage and protect it from being looted. That's the main thing.
Well, it's interesting that you should say that, in so much as taking the perspective of and comparing it to, for example, a Western side, you know, like a battlefield, in so much as I think an awful lot of people, they talk about other cultures and other cultures' monuments as though they are somehow more ancient or more intrinsically or authentically alien and historical than maybe a monument, say, in Europe. And there's no way that you would ever have tried to say that, say, Paris or Dresden or whatever shouldn't have rebuilt, say, after the Second World War. That the monuments and the elements of monuments which are now part of new buildings or new sites in the last 50 years are less valid just because of that. And maybe actually that this tendency that some people are saying, no, you can't go and rebuild that in Nepal. It'll never quite be the same. What they're doing there is they're sort of they're artificially, it's almost like a sort of Orientalism. It's kind of like they're sort of saying, oh no, it's the mysterious East, we can't tinker with that. Whereas actually, as you say, perhaps actually this is just this could be in the future just part of the ongoing natural progression of these sites, and archaeologically speaking, it's a blink of an eye, and who knows, in the future it could just be part of the life story of some of these buildings which have in parts collapsed. Yeah,
just kind of the event kind of becomes part of its history.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, but actually, as far as the human tragedy goes, as far as the people go, we did recently, this is something that has happened since the last Archaeo-Chat, we recently actually started up a page on the website called Soup's Causes, and where what we do is we highlight either people that we're working with or charitable organisations that Archaeo-Soup does donate to. And what's on there at the moment is, for example, UNICEF. So if people want to visit that, then they can do. I'll put the link just below. But also as well, actually, we'll try and find something, maybe Red Cross or something like that, and we'll put that on the Soup's Causes page. Just for now, really, just to do our bit that we can, for what's happening.
And I know on the UNESCO KATHMANDU office for UNESCO, part of the UNESCO website, if people decide they want to do for the people suffering out there, but also they have one for the heritage as well, to try to have money to help with trying to rebuild and reselling, protect what's out there as well.
Right. Okay.
And help get that tourism and that cultural heritage back on its feet.
Okay. Cool. So we'll link to that as well then down below. Okay. Excellent. Grand. Well, I think there's been quite a few interesting concepts and issues thrown around here, and hopefully this has been interesting to watch people at home. But also as well, I think we've both actually loved to hear from people in terms of what they reckon, because these are some fairly complex issues. I mean, I know I'd rather crudely split them into like a good news and bad news, as it were, but actually in many respects both of these different elements, both of these different stories have very complicated issues surrounding them. So for example, in Wales, the question of whether or not actually having more bite, less bark might actually be bad for heritage. In some ways, perhaps it might prevent access in some instances, or depending on how these particular laws, this legislation is enforced, it might be bad. And also, for example, in Nepal, as we've just been talking, there's so many complicated issues surrounding these sites that I think we both looked at. Just if you guys want to comment below and just have a bit of a chat about this, we will get involved. So yeah, excellent. Okay, well, as ever, it's been a pleasure, and to you and also the guys at home, until next time, take care. Bye bye.